Alright, let's try something really different. Okay, so here's the thing. I actually wanted to try another Figure of Destiny type build, because of the 24 lands and the synergy between having like a lot of lands and having a big mana sink. However, what I really wanted to do ultimately, because the thing is that I've really been liking Shatterskull Smashing, to be able to be like another utility land that I can play, that can also be played under Blood Moon, and that allows me to play 24 lands, but also not like get too mana flooded. And so like what I was really wanting to do is I really wanted to play 24 lands with an Obosh version, but also not get too flooded, especially when they for some whatever reason can deal with Obosh fairly easily. So like originally I thought like the only way to do that was to squeeze Figure of Destiny in. The only problem with that is that I really liked the main deck. I've been actually playing main deck Relic for a while, and I really, really like it. It's really like lots of people are playing Jund, lots of people playing black-red mid-range with like Kroxa and and Seasoned Pyromancer. Seasoned Pyromancer, and which of course our own Seasoned Pyromancer, we can play around it, and Magmatic Channeler, and just a lot of other decks, like even like these green-white value decks with like Knight of the Reliquary, any deck that plays Tarmogoyf. Randomly, you get to host Dredge in game one. There's a lot to like about main deck Relic, especially in this format where, like, I feel like some of the only like combo decks that actually break the turn 3 rule are actually graveyard decks. So like I feel like this kind of covers a lot of our bases as far as if we're vulnerable to decks that are faster than us. So at first I thought like, well, I don't know, how am I going to be able to squeeze main deck Relic Flame Slash, because I really like being able to kill 3 or more toughness creatures. And the other spells that I like historically, the Valakut Awakenings, the Forgotten Caves, being able to cycle under Blood Moon. Like how can I squeeze all of this in? Like I do like Figure of Destiny, but like it is kind of hard to argue, that like, and I have tried it over Soulscar Mage, but it's just really hard to argue that Figure of Destiny is better than Prowess creatures. Prowess creatures just these creatures are just so nuts if you think about it. Like compared to like the old cards that Red used to have to deal with at 1 mana. They're just 1 mana, 1/1, 1/2s, not even 1/1s, that can grow so much bigger at basically no cost, just doing your thing in the deck. So at first I thought like, well, maybe all hope is lost. Maybe there is no way to squeeze 24 lands in and play Figure of Destiny, and try to only play 12 mountains and have like a ton of have 12 like utility lands, because I thought, what other utility land? Because especially I was honestly thinking about playing some of those like green red and like black red lands that cycle for 2. But cycling for 2 is just so bad. I mean, Valakut costs 3, sure, but you can cycle other cards with it, so it makes up for it. Like just cycling like a normal comes into play tap land for 2 mana just feels pretty bad. Plus on top of that, I don't think the deck can really handle 12 lands that come into play tapped. I feel like I like 16 lands that come into play untapped and 8 lands that come into play tapped. But like, so I thought, what land could possibly come into play tapped, but I could also play it as a utility spell of some type later in the game, and I can do that under Blood Moon. I thought like, there's no such thing that exists. Like I really looked far and wide, and I'm like, there's no other card with cycling that really does the trick. I was actually honestly thinking about Blasted Landscape. Actually, Blasted Landscape would be perfect if that was modern legal. It's a colorless land. It comes into play untapped and it taps for colorless, but you can pay 2 to cycle it. That would have been perfect. I was like, yeah, I'll handle this. Sure, paying 2 to cycle is not great, but it comes into play untapped. So like, it's the opportunity cost is really not that bad. So almost all hope was lost. But then I'm like, wait a second, morph, and then I realized, oh shoot, I can try this. And late in the game, I can play it as a 2/2. Sure, 2/2 is like nothing to be nothing to really be that incredibly enthusiastic about, but it's not like that crazy. But at the same time, it does help mitigate mana flood. I don't know, maybe it won't really do that much. Maybe the colorless will be a huge problem, but we do have the Relic to kind of help a little bit with that, and I've just generally found, I used to play Blast Zone main deck. I think the colorless is not going to be a problem. We've got so much colorless stuff to do later in the game. 20 red sources and 4 color sources, that should be more than enough. And hey, sometimes this could even like ramp us into other stuff. It's unlikely, but yeah, because I don't know what this even ramp us into, because we would have to pay 2 on our 4th turn, and it doesn't ramp us at that point because we had to pay 2 to turn it into a land. But that would ramp us into 6 mana on turn on turn 5. Okay, okay, you know, I don't think there's much reason to need 6 mana on turn 5, but it is, for what it is worth, though. Late in the game, we can turn it into a 2/2, and if they like try to remove it or something, we could morph it into a land, which most of the time isn't gonna, unless it's like Assassin's Trophy or something, isn't gonna end up destroying it. Of course, you know, the whole reason we played as a 2/2 is presumably because we're flooding and we don't want more lands. But you know, hey, I mean, that is a line to be aware of. That, you know, we can actually save it, at least by turning it into a land. I don't know. I haven't really honestly seen this card played like at all, like literally at all. I don't think I've ever seen this card cast once, ever. I guess that's my job. I guess I cast the cards nobody else wants to. Well, let's see if this card is just a total dumpster fire, and there's a reason nobody's ever cast this, like, ever. But I don't know. Let's give it a shot. Let's go to the sideboard. Of course, if we're playing main deck Relic, which, like I said, there's a lot of merit to that, then we got more sideboard slots to work with, which is great. We're still on Pillage. I've just been really liking the fact that when I don't have lava darts, and since this is a turn 4 format, and for the most part, most decks can't win before turn 4. I really like the way Pillage. It's kind of like, if decks aren't winning on turn 4, I like being until turn 4. I like being able to delay turn 4, if that makes sense. There's just something kind of very elegant about that situation we find ourselves in the present modern. You know, I mean, sure, paying 3 mana to deal with an artifact is heck of it inefficient. I mean, it's really inefficient, but at the same time, I mean, I feel like the flexibility makes up for it. It's really also like, I don't really have much other plans to deal with like green-white Heliod. The deck's like bonkers. One of the only ways that like I can consistently deal with it is actually cheesing them with Blood Moon, and that's not even consistent. But Pillage helps make that more consistent, because one of the main ways they get out of that is they play Utopia Sprawl in their forest, and suddenly they have like all their mana needs met. But then you can pillage that forest, and you know, I'm not saying this will happen every game, but this has been a path to victory in the past, and it's probably led me to the most wins per capita. I don't even know what per capita mean in this context, but it's led me to the most amount of wins, I think. You know, like, it's not like I win every time, but I think it has improved my win rate the most when I've been on Pillage. You know, together with Blood Moon against green-white Heliod. Pyrite Spellbomb. This there really aren't that many other cards that are truly necessary, in a way. See, one of the problems is I'd love to play Dragon's Claw, but like, I just feel like I'm not going to bring it in enough, and conflicting with Obosh is a big deal. But I think Pyrite Spellbomb is going to be pretty good anti-burn tech, because they are going to be fairly threatened by hopefully our Swiftspear and our Soulscar Mage. So Pyrite Spellbomb will hopefully deal with the core Firewalkers. I mean, no doubt about it, we still got kind of a rough burn matchup, but I almost won a game against burn in the past by just doing my normal thing. Except core Firewalker is definitely a problem, and like the problem with you know, like Ratchet Bomb is it's just so slow. Kozilek's Return is great, but then sometimes they don't actually have like any creatures, and then like, you know, you just want to burn them out with like an Obosh in play, and you can't. So, you know, Pyrite Spellbomb is just a very solid card. It deals with pro-red creatures, but it can also cycle. Like, if they're just not presenting pro-red creatures, you need to draw more lands, you need to do something, it can cycle. You can also just use it on any 2 toughness or less creature. The fact that it can cycle actually just gives it a lot of flexibility. And you actually bring this in more often than you might think, just as like an additional burn spell, even if they don't necessarily have like a pro-red creature. And you'd be surprised how often the ability to cycle it arguably might even make it better than Seal of Fire, especially in a more mid-rangey type red deck like this that isn't like your normal red aggressive type deck. You know, and I'll get to the O-Stones in a second, but obviously Kozilek's Return, I've always liked this as a 2 of. It's a really good sweeper. You rip it off the top, and then hopefully it just wreaks havoc. And it can deal with a bunch of pro-red creatures at once. And of course we do have Pyrite Spellbomb, but hey, you know, I just like Kozilek's Return as a 2 of. I don't know what else to say. I've got 2 more slots to work with after you deal with the 4 O-Stones that I'm going to get to in a second, and there's a few other cards that I feel do as much with so few slots as Kozilek's Return. Obviously, Oblivion Stone is another one, which I'm getting to now. So sometimes I play this as a 2 of, but man, I gotta say, I just really, really like, in a 24 land deck, having the ability to nuke the world. You know, like, it's just this deals with enchantments, it deals with pro-red creatures, it deals with artifacts. Like, there's so few cards I've been finding myself siding in so frequently, other than Oblivion Stone. And Oblivion Stone is basically this deck's Ratchet Bomb. You know, it's like a mega Ratchet Bomb. And the thing is that, like, yeah, would I play Ratchet Bomb if it magically didn't conflict with Obosh? Yeah, sure. But since it does, you know, I think you'd be surprised how much closer O-Stone is than you might think to Ratchet Bomb. And the fact that you can deal with lots of stuff at lots of different converted mana costs, it's just very, very valuable. And, you know, the main thing to keep in mind is that this is a sideboard card through and through. There are certainly matchups where it's really, really bad, but the thing is you don't bring it into those matchups. Against most creature-based matchups, you know, this almost makes it so that if you get to 5 mana, you just win the game, and that's very powerful. And of course, it has to survive like getting Skyclave Apparition or something. But look, I'm not saying like it's the best card ever, but I think I finally found, at least in a 24 land version, my answer to Ratchet Bomb. I've really been loving this card. I almost always bring it in. Especially when sometimes it gets Skyclave Apparition, and then like having another one has sometimes been a lifesaver. Hopefully I'll get to demonstrate it, but O-Stone, just really, really astonishingly surprising. No other card really can swing matchups like O-Stone. So, you know, let's give this a spin, shall we?